Hey everyone, Juan is today with us, and he's the student program manager at GitHub Education, and he runs the award-winning DevRel program, which is popularly known as GitHub Campus Experts. And today at HackJaipur, he will be talking about the student communities he runs. And welcome, Juan. Over to you, Juan.
Hey everyone, thanks for that amazing introduction, Rishab. And as Rishab mentioned, I'm Juan Pablo Flores. I'm program manager at the GitHub Education team. And generally speaking, I'm really excited to be joining you today from the comfort of my home during these abnormal times. And I'm really happy this finally happened. It's my first time on an indie event, even though it wasn't the way that I thought this will go. It's really cool to be joining you on HackJaipur. I know the whole team that is organizing the event has done a lot of work to make this work. And so today we have a lot of topics I want to cover, but I want to focus on a couple of them. And I just wanted to tell you all folks that one of the key components about this talk is going to be about talking about the work that you folks at India are doing, which I think it's amazing. The amount of just like student activities and events and hackathons that is happening is just insane. And having that momentum will help you get into new opportunities, not only for you, but for everyone within your communities and for everyone within the student community in India. So taking advantage of this momentum, I can give some advice about what some student leaders might be able to do in the future to use this momentum to grow their communities and just make sure that they're making an amazing work within their communities. So first of all, what is a student community? And for us at GitHub Education is one of the key components of the whole program. And for us, student communities have two main components. One of them is, first of all, you're a group of students with similar interests, mission, and objectives, and you look forward to solve a common struggle. So for those of you who have already joined a community, you know probably which are the most common struggles within your own community. And even though some of these can be shared in a broader scale, let's say, for example, in the same state or in the same country, there are certain struggles that are very particular of each community, and it's only you, the student communities, that know which are these very specific struggles. On the other hand, student communities bring a lot of benefits for the student community within a college. So one of the most important benefits of communities is that they are a great way to learn new skills or just like new technologies. And this has a lot to do with when you find a group of like-minded people who you can join and you can be together to learn these skills. It's just easier for most people to be able to learn them. On the other hand, having collaboration within students increases the sense of belonging to an educational institution. And sometimes for some students, being part of a college can be something distant within what the teachers are doing, what the administration is doing, and what students can do. By being part of a student community, then you have a more close connection within the university and the decisions that they're taking. And one of the benefits that we see a lot is student communities work as a bridge between academia and the industry. If you have the opportunity to work in the industry already, you know that sometimes what you are being taught in the university is not necessarily what the industry is asking for. And the problem universities have is doing these changes can take years. So changing the curriculum can take, I don't know, as a director of computer science, 3, 4, or even 10 years to be able to propose those changes. And through student communities, they're able to close that gap between what the industry is asking and what is being told at the academia. So generally speaking, you're the ones who are helping students learn the latest technologies. And that's one of the key components that benefit generally all schools with these student communities. Now, in terms of the campus expert program and general and talking about GitHub education, one of the key components that we have right now is thinking of global. So how do we make learning resources accessible for everyone? And I know some of you might already know about the GitHub Student Developer Pack, where we offer you more than 200 tools for free. And that is one of the ways in which we are helping the next generation of developers to have access to new technology without having so many barriers. And one of those barriers can be just how expensive these tools can be. On the other hand, when we talk about programs, and particularly like the campus advisors and the campus expert program, there's a lot of work we have to do to make sure that these programs are actually solving some of the struggles that our communities are facing. And right now, something that we have been looking forward more to is if there is any model or any framework we can use to better understand the education dynamics at a global scale. And for that, we have developed a hybrid version of a model that we took from other two models that I will explain a little bit so that you can have a deep understanding on how this works. So one of the first things we look for when we're creating programs is we try the preconditions of learning. And if you think about this, is a step before you start learning is getting to know what is the general context behind the students. And we separate them into very specific groups. One of them is which is the age of the students that we're looking forward. Gender, it's not so much that we focus our programs just to one gender, but we want to make sure that we understand the barriers each gender might find in certain contexts, and social level. In the other side, we have something that we call, that it's more about the school and the cultural context. So we want to know more about what the school system looks like. And that can potentially set up a complete different set of barriers and of benefits that students can get. One of them is the curricula or the standards that the school has been given the students. And also we need to take a little bit of time to consider the ethnicity and traditions of these programs in a global scale. So it's not only about what you're learning in the school, but also what the surrounding looks like and how these traditions are working within the education system. And the other side, which is, I think, one of the most clear ones for students, is the technical and financial resources. So imagine if you are in an Ivy League university in the US, probably you have a lot of technical and financial resources, or at least your university might have more access to these resources. While if you're a student in a non-private university anywhere in the world, probably you will have less resources, and that probably will also affect the way that you get access to tools and to services that might help you develop your professional career. And we separate them in two because we want to make sure two things. First of all, the ones that we had on the left side, we call them anthropogenic conditions, which means that these are human-induced or originated by human activity. And on the left side, we have social cultural conditions. So this has to do more with traditions, habit, patterns, and beliefs of a particular population. And this sets up a complete change in the way we prepare the programs, considering, for example, there are countries where being probably a woman can be considered a minority in tax. So how can we better support this minority within that geography? Or if you come from a particular background, social background, you might not have as many opportunities as other people. So what we look forward with these preconditions of learning is understanding how we can set everyone on the same bar. so that everyone has the same opportunities to develop skills and to use these tools. Now, something that follow-ups with the preconditions is the decision areas, and this has to do a lot with what the student is looking forward when joining the programs. And there are 4 of them, but we discovered one since the way that we are educating students is online, and sometimes the teacher-student dynamic changes in a sense that there's no such thing as a teacher. But here we want to know, like, what are the intentions, or what are the objectives and goals of students within the program, what they're looking for, and what are their expectations. We also want to know the content. So what is the student asking for? What do they want to learn? And then we have the medium, which has to do with the media. And we ask questions like, how our current media works for students. And so far with the programs that we currently have, it has worked really good, since we have 2 different media or mediums in which we are teaching students. And one of them is, we have 2 types of resources. We have the written resources, and we also have video resources. So depending on what you feel more comfortable with, you can take one of them. Now, something that is very interesting about the Campus Expert program in particular is that we notice we have 2 main groups of students. Even though there are 3 or 4 of them, 90% of these students that join the program belong to one of these 2 groups. And one of them is, we have a group of students who are very technical, and they want to learn more about how to code and how to use the latest technologies. And probably they live using Stack Overflow, and they go through Reddit all the time. And on the other side, we have the students that we see them, they have more of the people skills. So they want to learn how to manage their communities. They want to learn how to become better leaders within their communities. So they are more focused on the people skills. And a very important thing about this is trying to find ways in which we can balance the content within both is key to be able to give the students the content they want and that they might find very useful for their communities. Now, probably some people might think that one, it's more important than the other, but being in an industry where you need to either know how to manage people or learn how to code solutions and projects, we do believe that both have the same level of importance within the program. Now, consequences. What happens after you finish the program or any training resource that we have? And what we look forward is as a person, which are your outcomes, which skills have you acquired, and which competencies have you developed? And more in the context side, we want to know which are the changes within the community and how you are opening new opportunities within that community as well. If you think about it a little bit more, we went back to the first slide where we were talking about having anthropogenic conditions and sociocultural conditions. Here we have anthropogenic consequences and sociocultural consequences. And at the end, this is actually what we're looking for when we are doing all the trainings and all the programs that we're working on, is to promote positive changes within not only people, but within communities as well. And we know that there's this general idea that being a leader is something that you are born with, but we believe this is something that you can learn as well. And talking about the models and frameworks we are following, we based these whole programs, this program and the way that we're teaching students these skills on 2 different models. One of them is the Berlin model that was designed in 2010, if I'm not wrong. And the Berlin model considers everything that we talked before. It considers the preconditions, the decisions, and the consequences of the learning resources that you're building. But this model was very limited, and we combined it with the Darmstadt model. The problem that we found with the Darmstadt model was that this teaching model is very in-depth, and sometimes it's impossible for us to completely use that model, considering that Berlin is very wide in the sense of the topics that it covers, and Darmstadt is very specific. So if you want to use Darmstadt model, then you need to know which policies are affecting education, who are the stakeholders, who has the most influence to change these policies. And being a worldwide program, having that information is really hard, if not impossible. So we decided to make a hybrid between the Berlin model and the Darmstadt model so that we can have a better design, not only on the trainings, but also on the people that we're accepting to the programs, and also the consequences or the results from the programs that we're currently having. And one of the key changes that we have, that probably some of you are aware of, is something we call the range of influence. And the range of influence is a way we measure the impact a student can have considering factors such as student density and geography. And this has different scales. For example, we can measure if a student will have a school range of influence, or probably a city or town range of influence, or I don't know, even like state or a countrywide range of influence. So this allows us to make sure that we're not only having a very good training program, but at the same time we are able to expand this program to geographies that it was not available before. And by prioritizing these countries where we don't have campus experts, then we can start growing this ecosystem into more regions. On the other side, we consider the student density. So, for example, if you consider how many students graduate from India every year, that I think it's something in the terms of like tens of thousands of students every year. There's a very high dense student region there, and that's why we currently have so many campus experts that are attending that particular country. The same thing happens for Nigeria, but if you think about the way or the struggles Nigeria has, or the struggles that India has, each of them has very different local struggles. So consider, for example, going back to the comparison we had before. So if you're a student from India, probably have sometimes the lights go out, and then you need to find ways in which you can avoid that happening. And probably you will have to rent like a power source or a power plant to be able to do that. There are certain schools in Nigeria that don't even have electricity in their schools. So when we are measuring how a student will have positive consequences or positive results in a specific geography, we do care a lot about knowing these struggles beforehand so that we can start measuring better the impact these students will be having. Now, there's a very important topic I wanted to talk, and this is related to what I mentioned in the beginning, which has to do with how well India is doing in terms of tech, and I think by far is one of the most active countries that we have in the program. And something that we see that would benefit a lot is having deep understanding on how leadership looks like and which are the skills the industry is asking right now for these leaders to be able to not only improve your local communities, but at the same time also improve your professional career. And there's a very good study that Harvard revealed a couple of years ago where they show how leaders are, what types of leaders exist in the wild, to say it in some way. So something we noticed from the leadership on the program is that there are some types of leadership that we call coercive style, which is that kind of leader is like, do what I say. And they might be really, it's not that it's bad though, but the coercive style of leadership is very effective in situations such as natural disasters or when working with problem with employees. So think about it as someone who is very strict and not very flexible. And the other type of leadership that we notice that is not very present within programs is the pace setting style. So you have a leader who is a super high performer and he amplifies them as himself. So he's asking them to be just like himself and he's setting the pace, demands for excellences, but sometimes these demands can be seen as very resentful for his or her community, or for this leader community, since he is like using himself as an example. So we haven't seen a lot of student leaders that follow between these two. And generally speaking, this has to do a lot with the perception students within that community might feel about the leader. And most of them turn to have a very negative, let's say, a very negative overall impact on climate within their communities. While the other 4 leadership styles, which had to do with being affiliative, the affiliative style has to do with someone who puts people first, and someone who finds very useful to build harmony within their teams, or democratic style, where everyone can have a word while taking decisions and adds flexibility and responsibility between the whole group. Or others such as like the coaching style, where you focus on this leadership is focus on personal development on their community over work-related tasks. So each of these styles has its pros and cons, and when you're managing leaders, it's very important to know which are these characteristics, so that you know how to respond in different situations or different contexts. Now, this doesn't mean that we give different like treatment to each student itself, but it's really useful when you are leading these kind of like programs to understand what are people looking for and what are their expectations. Now, something that I want to mention is that some key skills that that some leaders use to get the results that they're looking forward. And most of them are related not so much with like managing a team, but it's more about like emotional intelligence. And being able to develop emotional intelligence will at the end have positive impact within your local community. So some of the skills or some of these clusters that we made to name these skills is, first of all, as a leader, you need to be self-aware, and you need to be emotionally self-aware. So you need to read and understand your emotions, as well as recognize your impact on your work and performance. You need to have an accurate self-assessment, which has to do with having a realistic evaluation of your strengths and your limitations. And one of the most important that I think is one of the biggest problems within developers is self-confidence, or have a strong and positive sense of self-worth. That here comes the imposter syndrome that is very well known within the tech community. The other cluster has to do with self-management, and I would totally agree that having self-control, or the ability to keep disruptive emotions and impulses under control, is key. Also, you need to display honesty and integrity, which has to do with your trustworthiness, and be conscious of managing yourself and your responsibilities. Nowadays, it's very common that probably like working extra hours, and overall, like during coronavirus, like most people would overwork. But having an ability to manage yourself and your responsibilities is key for you to have a well-balanced, first of all, well-balanced work and life. Like your lifestyle and your work style have to be balanced. And on the other side, you need to be able to adapt or adjust to changing situations to overcome obstacles. The third cluster that we made was the social awareness, and it has to do with a very important skill that I think a lot of leaders are struggling right now with, which is empathy, or the skill at sensing other people's emotion, understanding their perspective, and taking an active interest in their concerns. So empathy right now is probably one of the skills that I believe student leaders need to learn, and it's something that the industry is moving forward with all these social movements that are currently going on. And last but not least, we have social skills. Being the most important is communication skills, or the ability to listen and send clear and convincing messages to others. So if you're able to build 3 main skills in the next year, I would recommend you to do resilience, or the ability to overcome very tough times, empathy, and communications. Those three skills are going to be key in the future of work. Now, before we go, I would like to give you some words of advice to make the most out of school. And this has to do as well with your local community. So the first one is Redesigns, and I stole these from Moss, who is the education director at GitHub. You need you need to understand what is coming up next and have a very clear vision of the future. And we are all the time getting these signs about how the future would look like. But the problem is we are so much bombarded with different signs that we forget to see the important ones. So read the signs, and if you're a community leader, read the signs within your community. What is your community looking forward right now? And how are you responding to those signs? Also, ask for what you want. It's very common that we let opportunities pass because we don't ask for something that we really need or that we want. And it's key as a community leader that you make these asks, and this has to do more with your college. So let me tell you a story about so I organized the first student hackathons in Mexico, and something that was very difficult at the beginning was making sure that we get backup from the university. And we were making a lot of asks to the university, and they absolutely ignored us. Something that we did to solve this was, if our university is not helping us out, then we'll go to another university. And we started asking our friends from the community if they were able to host the event. When we organized the first hackathon, we asked a friend, and that friend was able to manage everything to get a venue for us to do the hackathon. And after 4 years of organizing that hackathon, my university asked us to do the same hackathon we did at the other university, but now at my college. So by asking for what we needed, even though at the first time we didn't get the results that we expected, but asking from others, you're very much able to find solutions to most of the struggles that you might be going through as a community leader. The third one, which I think is the one that will benefit you the most, is build your career with your community. If you have a special interest group within your community that you are very much interested on, you should totally take over for it and make it very public that you are taking lead on these topics. You can do this by promoting it on your Twitter account or your LinkedIn account or even your GitHub account. So by promoting the work you're doing with your community, it can start setting you up to build your career. I know a lot of students right now are looking for developer relation positions, and you're in a very good moment, first of all, because a lot of companies are opening offices in India, and they're looking forward for people who can take over these opportunities. So start working on making yourself very visible so people can start recognizing you as a leader within that particular topic or interest. Then something very important is skills are always more important than a certificate. And this is something we live and breathe within GitHub. We have people who probably studied, medieval literature or, chemistry. But they have a passion and they have developed on their own the skills to develop software. And at companies like GitHub, having the skills is much more important than having a certificate that you know something. And at the end, something that I noticed as my time as a student is that there are a lot of engineers without a degree or an engineering degree, and there's a lot of engineering degrees without an engineer. So work on developing the skills that the industry is asking for, and do not necessarily look for certificates. Even though certificates are good proof, at the end when they hire you, if you have the certificate but you don't have the skill, then it's gonna get a little bit wild as you move forward with the company. And last and the most important is that results take time. So when we organized the first hackathon in Mexico, a lot of companies were asking us for immediate results. So they're looking for how many companies were built from this hackathon, or how many startups have we funded after the hackathon happened. And something that we notice is, first of all, if you are at HackJaipur, don't pressure yourself in building like a company out of nowhere. But something that you should totally look forward for is for getting to know some of the people around the hackathon. From my experience, the people that go to hackathons just go to community events like meetups, talks, and conferences. If you give them like 3 or 4 years, they will start doing really cool projects. And there are people that you should follow up with after a couple of years, so that you know what they're doing or what they're working on. Most people are doing amazing work. A lot of the people that went to our first hackathon here in Mexico right now have their own companies, or they're working at really cool companies as well. So it takes time. For most people, it would take something around like 2 to 3 years to start seeing the results of going to hackathons, meetups, and conferences. And last but not least, there are limitations to all the programs, and it's key for you when you apply to a program to know these limitations. In particular, with some of the programs that we have at GitHub Education, is if you don't have infrastructure such as internet or electricity, it's really hard for us to provide you with that infrastructure. And even though we have some students that are able to move to another city or move to another town to get these needs that they have, we still know that there are a lot of people around the world that do not have access to these resources. Language is a very sad limitation. All our programs are done in English, and I know that for some students, probably learning English is a very strong barrier that you have on your professional degree. But if you have the time, it totally like converts, you can totally profit from learning or studying English. It's right now a total need in the industry, and it will open you so many doors just by knowing the language. And the last limitation is fiscal complexities fiscal and legal complexities in certain countries. We are not able to fully support some students just because going through their fiscal methods and their fiscal world is very complex, and it's very hard for us to be able to make sure that we're doing everything legally within the country. So this is a very, I think would be one of the key pain points that we currently have in any of our programs. And with that, we have finished this presentation, and I'm able to take some questions from the community. I think we have a couple of extra minutes just to talk about anything that you would be interested to know about programs and what we're working on. I don't know if Rishabh or Mayank are here to help out with that.
Hey, Juan. Hello.
Hey, yeah, I hear you.
We have some questions in the chat section regarding GitHub Student Developer Pack. So we'll just read them out to you. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So one of the students has asked, can school-going kids get GitHub Education Pack?
Can you like make the question like I didn't get it. So the limitations for the GitHub Student Developer Pack is you need to be 13 years of age, go at any educational institution and having proof of that. Those are like the requirements that we have for students worldwide.
Cool. And the question is when we will get a bit graduation swag.
Okay, so graduation swag. We will start sending swag, if I'm not wrong, next week. We are finishing up with all the new printing stuff that we got for you. So the whole idea with the graduation swag was to make something cool and something very unique, because we know it's a very unique moment in your life. So coronavirus has made everything super, super hard, and it has taken much more time than we expected to get everything set up. But we will make sure if we added you to the repository, like if we merge your pull request and we send you like a confirmation about your swag, like you will get swag. We will make sure of that.
Even I'm graduating in 2020. So, yeah. Yeah. So next question is, what is the validity of the GitHub Student Developer Pack?
The availability or the validity? Oh, so the Student Developer Pack, so it has, in terms of validity, I'm supposed to tell you about how much time do you have this Student Developer Pack. If not, you can correct me. But you need to refresh your status as a student every 2 years. And that's the only thing that we ask students. And you can do that just by submitting another proof that you are still studying, and you'll be good to go.
So we have someone said about you, like your voice has the awesome power, but still you talk humble.
That's really cool. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I've been practicing my voice all week. You know, it's a core skill you need to develop as well as a community leader.
And one more last question. My student ID card doesn't contain any date. That's why they reject my GitHub education. Any solution to that?
You can. That's a tough one. I would send two things. First of all, if you have an email from your educational institution, you would need to, if you have that, it would be better, and you can even automatically get accepted to the GitHub Student Developer Pack. So my recommendation is to apply with your school email. If you don't have it and your ID doesn't have one, you can ask your school to print you some. I don't know if you, like, you're back to school, right? I think school's open again. I don't know why, like between us, but schools are open again in India, if I'm not wrong. And you can ask your university to give you some sort of document that proves your status as a student, and that would be more than enough.
And another question is that tips on how to get selected as GitHub Campus experts.
Good question. If you put attention, I gave you the pro tips, and it has to do with the way we design the program. Right now, so the most important tip that I can give you is apply as soon as we reopen applications. Right now, we are very much saturated in certain countries, so we refresh applications every 6 to 8 months. The next refresh will go live on August 16, and it's like, and this is not just for Campus Expert program, just like any program that you apply in when they are just as soon as they open applications, so that you increase your possibilities, because all programs go saturated really fast, and that increases your possibility to get selected. The other tip that I can give you is, if you watch the talk, you got like the pro tips. Let us know about your community struggles, and let us know about how becoming a campus expert can help you and your community to be better. One of the things we have noticed recently is that there are a lot of, so I don't know if I should tell you this. This is a secret though. So we noticed some people who are doing, so when we accept someone in the program, from certain countries. I don't know what happens, but then people like send the message to other people, so they apply with the same reason why they want to join the program, and we just like immediately reject those kind of applications just because we know it's a plagiarized reason why they want to join the program. So make sure you tell us why you are unique and why you should be part of the program, and you should be more than enough to get you into the program. So those are, if you combine everything that I just told you, between applying as soon as the program opens, everything that we mentioned in this talk, and what I just told you, you should be good to go with the program.
I guess there are no questions left, and we can wrap up the session now.
Awesome.
Thank you
That's
so much,
great.
John, for joining us at HackJaipur.
I mean, I hope it was of any help. If you folks wanna like send me a tweet, you can do. It's at Juan P. Flores. You can tweet me. I try to respond as soon as I can, but be aware that I'm in a complete different time zone. And if you have questions around the programs or how to become a better community leader, let me know, and I can send you some resources your way.
John, what's your Twitter handle? I'm just mentioning it in the comment section.
It's at Juan 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 P. Flores. Awesome. Well, folks, have a great rest of the hackathon. Looking forward to see what you build. I know this is such a massive event right now, and I'm so excited that the student community is still together, even in these abnormal times. And wish you the best of luck. Happy hacking, and go break a leg with the last day of the hackathon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joan.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.